I'm Stacy. I'm married to Andrew. We have 6 kids, and we live here in Blair, Nebraska. I grew up the middle of 3 kids, and my parents, who are still married, we all lived in Washington State. That's where I grew up, and we had a pretty typical childhood, I would say. We played baseball and softball and had friends that we'd run around with. My family, I should say, was always involved in church. My dad was in different leadership positions throughout the years, and I grew up knowing the Lord. I grew up with my family's faith that turned into my own faith. When I was 13, I made that decision for myself to become a follower of Christ and to, at that time, the best I could understand, to live for Him. As I was growing up into my teen years, coming into college, I moved out of my family's house and got an apartment. And my mom wanted to come over one morning and just have a conversation. She had struggled with some things when she was younger with the relationship with her mom, and so she wanted to get together with me. And throughout the course of that conversation, she shared with me that during my growing up, she hadn't loved me. And that was a surprising conversation to have, surprising to hear, confusing. And at that time, I wasn't sure what to do with that information. The next few years of my life, I struggled a lot. Probably more so the first 6 months to a year after that conversation. I was confused, I was hurt, I doubted a lot of things, and I wondered, how could someone who was your family have that conversation with you, and as though it was just a typical conversation. And I know that it's not a typical conversation that most people have, but it threw me for a loop where I wasn't sure where I should go from there. I had a good, solid group of friends who I spent a lot of time with and who were Christians. They were solid in their faith. They pushed me in ways to grow in my faith. But I also had another group of friends who were not following the Lord and who did not have that same interest for me in mind. And I gravitated toward that group of friendships. That led to a relationship that wasn't honoring the Lord, drinking for a time in college, and the ways that the world says you should gravitate to comfort you or to heal your pain or to, it's just what the world says. That's what you should do, and that's where you should go when things aren't going well. That's it. And that's where I went. And so after a time, during that time, I knew that my relationship with the Lord was still there, though Monday through Saturday, I was living a lifestyle that wasn't pleasing to the Lord. Sunday mornings, I was in church, I was on the worship team, and I was living a double life. As I came out of some of those deep emotional feelings, and even as I was struggling through them, I knew that the way that my life was leading was not where I wanted it to go, and it also wasn't where the Lord wanted me to go. I always just knew He was there, but I hadn't made Jesus the Lord of my life. And although I knew Him as Lord, I didn't see Him as the Lord. And it was in that time that I was struggling. And I think that's when it comes to some of us, is when we are struggling the most. You turn to the Lord, and you sometimes feel like that's the only hope at that point, because it is. In the end, that's our true hope. And as I navigated back toward solid friendships and people who had my best interest in mind, and as I sought the Lord even more intentionally, He started to heal those hurts and the pain and the things that I had been trying to push to the side. It was easy to feel isolated and alone, and to turn to things that were outside of my normal day to day, because that allowed me to keep some of it a little bit hidden and secret. But if someone were to find themselves in that situation of feeling alone or feeling unloved or abandoned or whatever it might be, I would just say to seek people who are like-minded in Christ, who have your best interest in mind, who want to help you through that time, that you don't have to go through it alone, and you certainly don't have to try and hide or struggle on your own. And so you can just turn to the people around you. If you don't have a close group around you, there are so many amazing people at this church who want to be there with you and support you and guide you. And the Lord is there every step of the way, that He is leading and guiding, even in the midst of the hurt and the pain. He's there. Through all of the things, Jesus has been consistent. He's been faithful. He's been loving and kind and present in all of the ups and downs. Every trial, every good time and bad time, He's there. And He has been faithful to show me that no matter what I do, no matter what choice I make, I can come back to Him. And He's there, waiting. He's ready. He is open arms. And there's nothing that I can choose, nothing that I can do that will separate me from His love. And that's who Jesus is to me.